This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Warm welcome to the Sunset Safari. Here I'm standing on a magnificent termite mound and we have a spectacular afternoon planned for you. We're coming to you live at the moment from the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. My name is James Henry. Bokomoso BK is on camera. There's another person out here, that's Lauren. We'll come to you from the deserts of the Kalahari, the wetlands of Maputaland, a little reserve on the base of the Drakensberg Mountains there, and all the way up at Ngala, also on the fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. So we have a very, diverse range of habitats for you. Please do talk to us during the course of the show. For the first 45 minutes, I'm afraid that's going to be limited to those under the age of 18 or those pretending to be under the age of 18. You can ask us questions, send us comments using the email address kidsequestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsequestions@wildearth.tv. We are attempting today to go terra incognito to the west. That means we're going exploring on the western sides of this reserve that I haven't been to before, onto a piece of the reserve called Simbambili. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I've no idea what everyone else is going to be doing, but I'm hoping our first animal will be in these clearings over here. Let's have a look-see. At the very least, we should be able to show you a bird, perhaps. Surely there must be some animal life. I will stop and ask BK to pan around, and you will be able to see the Drakensberg Mountains, which form the escarpment of South Africa, stretching more than 1,000 kilometers down to the Eastern Cape Highlands. It's not a very high mountain range by world standards, but it's a magnificent one. And sometimes, if it gets really, really cold in this area, there'll be snow up there. But there's so little snow up there that there isn't even a word in the local language for snow. That language is Shangaan or Xitsonga. I do not see any animals here, do you, BK? Let us continue. It's a nice warm day, probably about 25 degrees Celsius or so, 75 Fahrenheit, in the sun. And while we search for animal life or interesting plant life, such as whatever made those tracks, probably a hyena, let's go up to the Kalahari where they are waiting to say hello to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, from another, as always, fantastic day at Tswalu Kalahari. What an environment. Jandre and myself, Dylan, for those of you who haven't met us, it is such a pleasure having you join us on all these safaris, not just here, but with our colleagues in the other areas. And together, hopefully, we can really help you appreciate and enjoy and become passionate about these environments that all of us are working in and have the privilege to be working in. So Genre and I, what we're going to be doing this afternoon for you, or with you rather, is we're going to do another stakeout. It's a slightly different though. Our field ranger teams have reported finding a carcass of an eland. It looks like a very, very old bull. Apparently the horns are worn in that. So we think it died of old age. But anyway, we're going to head down that way, and we're going to hold thumbs. Maybe, if we're very, very lucky, we may even be able to get another brown hyena sighting. That's really taking a flying chance there. I don't even know how much is left of it. I don't know how fresh the carcass is, but I think it's going to be totally worth spending a bit of time there. And, obviously there's other things like black-backed jackals that can come in, leopard, that would kind of like be a real outlier, but you never know. And so I think that's going to be a really fun thing to do this afternoon. And yeah, just please ask questions, don't be shy. It is the kids session, so keep sending those questions. And anything you want to know about these environments or about the ecology of these areas, if I don't know the answers, and there's a good likelihood of that, let's find out. I will sift through whatever data I've got at home, and I'll ask all the people that I can to so we can delve into these things. But yeah, it's just brilliant being out here. It's mild. So I've just got a very light fleece on now, and it's just going to be a good time out there. So just please keep joining us, and let's see what we got.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on board to your live safari of today. Woo, bumpy road. What a start. My name is Lauren, and I do have Davy on camera today. And we are out and about, going to check lots of... Oh! Is searching for me. He shall wait. Going to search the water bodies. It's a hot afternoon, and I think a water bodies is a good place to start, so we can see if any animals are coming down to drink. And I'm very much looking forward to answer all your questions that you may have. It's a chilly, chilly morning in South Africa. Okay. Especially here in the low veld, and then it's a really, really chilly evening, but the daytime is actually very warm. And it's around this time that I imagine, you see all this destructions from the elephant. Can we show this, Darby? It's a bit close, but look at this. This is a russet bush willow, combretum. And you can see that the elephants have just snapped it in two. And it really does not make it easy for us to drive around the reserves. Now, although people think that this causes a lot of damage, essentially it does, but actually it's very important for the environment for elephants to do this. It has a positive ecological role. And why? Well, if you think of the top of the tree that's completely inaccessible to all the animals that are on the ground, that's now on the ground, which means all these animals, including small mammals, birds, maybe even reptiles, can actually eat whatever was at the top of the tree, and it's now down at the bottom. You can see that it also creates a habitat for... It also creates a habitat for lots of different animals. So they can utilize the tree, they can maybe live inside the tree, they can, maybe use it as shelter or protection. And if the trees have any delicious fruits, they of course fall to the ground, and it allows all the ground animals to eat up the yummy, yummy fruit. So although elephants seem to be very destructive, and maybe the trees definitely think that, they actually have a really positive ecological role, and that is their role in the environment here. It's important that they do this. They're known as ecological architects. Yes. They are architects of this environment. Engineers, maybe, is a better word. But unfortunately, it doesn't make it easy for us to drive around in. I'm actually hoping to see some elephants today. At a waterhole would be perfect. It's been a long time since I've seen elephants around a waterhole. And this one is all dried up. I haven't actually been to this little pan in a while. Oh no, there's still some puddles. Animals could definitely drink from this, but it's more or less completely dried up. And that's because it's winter and it's cold. There's very, very little rains. Can you hear the birds? Davy spots something. I don't know what it is he's spotted. Let's take a closer look. Ooh, we have a bird over here. I think it could be a shrike, but I'm going to need to get my binos out. Oh, you hear that noise? That was my binoculars. I think it is a shrike, though. Well spotted, Davy. We're on a bit of a birding mission again today. Normally you get little bee eaters here, but I can't see any. It's not easy to spot the birds or identify them, especially when they're in flight and they're really, really small. That's why you should always keep your binoculars handy. But I think that was a white-crowned shrike, a gorgeous bird. Let's see if we can spot any more birds on this road. This is a very, very good road for birding. Okay, we're going to get our birding eyes on. And as we search the skies and the trees, we're going to send you lot over to Pridelands.
Yes, good afternoon and welcome, of course, to all of you that have joined us. We are sitting with a giraffe. But I'd like to say a special hello to Mrs. Turner and her second grade class all the way in Ireland. I was going to try and do an accent, but I thought it would be a bit embarrassing because I'm not very good at accents. Maybe James will be able to help you out there. But it's good to have you on board, and I'm looking forward to all your tall questions about these wonderful animals. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Gert. And like was said before, we are here at Pridelands, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. And we're surrounded by giraffe. Actually, they're all around us at the moment, although I haven't parked us very well for good lighting, but we will make do. That's okay. But there are a couple there just feeding away. What is that giraffe doing, Gert? That one on the right. Was it rubbing its face on the branches, or is it actually eating something? Oh no, it looks like it's feasting. Everybody seems to be eating tamboti leaves today. Now, that is that tall tree there that you can... Is it a tamboti tree? It looks like it. There's lots of them growing here. We're actually in a thicket. Maybe that one is a knob thorn. It's very difficult to see. I don't know if it's as bright for you. But anyways, some of the trees that they're feeding on, like the tamboti tree, is actually poisonous to you and I. But not to the giraffe. They're able to sort out those toxins, and it doesn't affect them too much. This is the culprit that was eating on the poisonous tamboti tree. But giraffe and kudu and elephants are known to do this. So there she walks. She's going to join the rest of the herd. Not that she'll stay with these giraffe forever. She could be with them today and not tomorrow. So it's very interesting. Even though they all socialize with one another, they don't have to stay a part of the same herd, like we typically see with the other animals. They're not permanently bonded. Even a mother and her youngster at some point will part ways and do their own thing. And she's not having any of it. She's moving right away to some other giraffe. She's going to go feed in the distance. There's actually quite a few of them here, because on our way down, we could just see the tall heads above the trees, all the way in the drainage line. So there's at least more than 10 giraffe. And most of them seem to be girls. Now you're probably wondering how on earth I know that. It's because if we look at the top of their heads, they've got like horn-like protrusions, which I'm sure most of you know are called ossicones, and they're not actually horns. So that's just a sort of bony protrusion with skin covering it. But they're very narrow and they've got black tufts of hair. Whereas the boys, as they start to get older, those ossicones, those horn-like structures are a lot thicker. Here we go. Here's a good example because here comes a male. So you can see how much thicker his ossicones are, and he's also bald on top. This typically happens as they start to get older. Sometimes they can be darker in color, but that's not always the case. As that female that walked past just a moment ago was actually really dark in color too. But normally when they mature and the more testosterone that they produce means that the darker the color will go. We'll see that with lions, we see it with all sorts of things. But that's the end of our giraffe. Can you believe it? They've disappeared right in front of our eyes. The tallest animal. Amazing. And now, giraffe don't make very many sounds at all. They don't have any vocal cords present in their voice box, so they're fairly silent. But scientists have recently discovered that giraffe can hum, so they're humming in the evenings. I have never heard a giraffe hum before. The only sound I've ever heard a giraffe make was like a snake. No, snakes don't make that sound. I'm just going. Elephants have pushed a tree in the road and we need a chainsaw to come and fix it, so we've got to go the adventurous way. So that giraffe was making that sound at a leopard. I don't know. I was supposed to do that. I totally just stalled the car because I'm driving just slightly off-road. That's very embarrassing. We might be stuck. Oh, no. We're not. Okay. That's, you know why it was really embarrassing, is because I stalled the car in low range. It's almost impossible to do that, except if your name is Taylor. So we're going to carry on, but I see all sorts of animal tracks here going in the direction of a watering hole, so I think that's exactly where we're going to head.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to And Beyond Ngala. My name is Bunny. I have got my cameraman behind me. His name is Owen. Our signal has been up and down this afternoon. We traveled quite far south of the property, pursuing to try and head into the area where the guys have left tracks of the pride that we haven't seen in the last 3 days. So we're going to head towards that waterhole, and hopefully our signal will hold and see what we can get for the afternoon. Emma, we haven't seen wild dog in the last month and a half, and that is mostly because the wild dogs are denning at the moment, meaning they're having puppies. So unfortunately we don't have any dogs that are denning in the property, so their movement is very highly limited. So what we highly hoping for is that when they start moving the dens, we know that in our property next to us, Manyeleti, there is a pack that's denning there, not too far east of our boundary, which is what we're hoping for, that if they change dens, maybe they're going to move on to our side. At the moment, every now and again, we see tracks, but they quick come in and go out once they've hunted and killed something. So yeah, as we drive along, we are going to send you over to Tswalu Kalahari and see what the guys have got there for you.
So as Genre and I were on the way out to do our eland carcass stakeout, we happened to notice this beautiful orangey golden exude from this acacia. This is a camel thorn acacia. It's actually now called Vichelia areoloba. The old name used to be Acacia areoloba. There's been a whole shift in the naming of these trees and the scientific names, but it's a camel thorn acacia is a common name. But this lovely sap dripping out of it is what is commonly known as gum arabic. That's just a different species, but it has essentially the same quantities, and this has been used in confectionery for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. That's just what I've read. I haven't tried it. But you can eat it, and I will eat a piece to show you that it's not toxic, or I don't think it's toxic. No, I'm just kidding. Doesn't taste very nice at all. But I'm going to feed it. I'm going to feed it to Jandre just now. But for protocols of social distancing, I won't give it to him. Yeah. No. I hope that's the gum and not like some animal deposit on the tree. No, it is. I'm kidding. It is. It is. But while I'm trying to get this taste out my mouth, and it's not very nice. Alan Moore says that's so cool, and it is really cool. So I'm talking a bit funny because it feels like I've got glue inside my mouth. But anyway, I'm going to show you something. I'm trying to hold it very still. It's something very interesting on this bush here. Okay, it's got all these normal leaves. Okay, this is called a raisin bush. It gets these little fruits that are kind of vaguely reminiscent of a raisin. All these normal leaves, these broader ones. But then over here, you've got this other small patch of leaves over there. I know it's very, very difficult to see. I'm trying to hold still. With this weird little wooden shape on it. Okay. This is actually, some of you may remember, a couple of drives back we were looking at the mistletoe growing on this stuff is really disgusting, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, we were looking at the mistletoe growing on the bushes. And this is a young one. It's a tiny little one that's just started. This is probably from 1, maybe 2 seasons old. But I'm still hoping to show you a fresh one that's actually been deposited by a bird, and it's just started growing. So this one has got a lot of life still ahead of it, and these wooden pieces of here are actually where previous ones have actually died off and become dislodged from the host plant. So anyway, that was just out of interest while we were looking at the gum. I happened to notice that, and I just wanted to share that with you. Very cool. We're going to carry on down the road here and see what the safari holds at the other places while I get this taste up my mouth.
Hello and welcome to And Beyond Phinda. My name is Damon, and behind the camera this afternoon we've got Marcel, and we've come out into, I'll show you on the map where we are, somewhere a little bit different to where we were this morning. So we drove this afternoon out of And Beyond Phinda Mountain Lodge, and we're driving in these kind of green and grey areas, which are kind of what you see around us here, a mosaic of thickets and clearings, and we've managed to find some warthogs. And you'll notice that we are keeping quite a distance from them for the time being. And that's not because they are super dangerous to us. It's just that warthogs can be very, very, very skittish. And so we're just going to keep a bit of a distance for now, enjoy them from this distance. And we'll try and get a little bit closer if they look like they're super relaxed. For the time being, it looks like they are all busy feeding on this short grass and these short growing herbs in this open clearing here. You can see that one's butt sticking up in the air as he feeds. And that's typically how warthogs is. They'll kind of almost kneel. It's not quite their knees though, but more their ankles, but it looks like they're kneeling. And that'll bring their faces close to the ground, and they'll then be able to use their teeth and their lips to crop up the grass and the short growing herbs and forbs. And that's what they're busy feeding on, it looks like. It looks like there's one big male on the far right, and a female and some youngsters on the left. Now they're not super small, and because warthogs tend to give birth at the same time every single year, they normally give birth around November, December. We know that these warthogs were born around then, so we can tell that they're probably about 6 months old. See them there now standing in the shade of that big tree. And it's a lovely peaceful afternoon out here. The sun's slowly starting to head towards the western horizon. And these warthogs are going to be getting in a last little bit of food before they decide to retire to their burrows for the evening. Warthogs being animals with not very much fur on their bodies, they do need the shelter of a burrow at night. Honey, you say you're so excited. I'm also excited, honey. I love warthogs. They're always so entertaining to watch, especially when there's youngsters this age. They're often quite playful, and they'll chase each other around and nuzzle each other, and they'll sometimes even do these funny little 360-degree spins. And see, there's
Sorry about that rather abrupt change of scenery, but we have managed to happen across an actual animal. It's been some time. There are two wildebeestens, and I think there's an elephant behind us actually about to emerge, which is very exciting. Now, I believe that you were with Dylan eating the gum of an acacia tree, and I was reading about that the other day. And apparently you have to be quite careful about eating too much of it, because it can give you quite a lot of gas. And so I hope Dylan is well aware of the potential troubles he could be causing to his bowels. This little group of wildebeest is lying down in a very picturesque clearing here on Simbambili, next to some water. I'm just going to reverse because there is a large animal behind us. Could be an elephant. It is indeed an elephant. That's exciting. Hooray! I drove straight past him. So well hidden was he. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? Very nice to see you. Shall I just go round this way, BK? He's in some quite thick bush. Is that right? So he's a, well, youngish bull, bachelor on his own, very relaxed, because it's a glorious afternoon here in the Lowveld. And I think he might have a friend a little bit further into the bush. Now what's interesting is that we've been driving along the fringes of a clearing for the last 10 minutes or so. And any animal life that we have seen has been pretty close to the woodland sides or in the woodlands on the edges of the clearings. And I think that's probably because the grasses in those clearings have become moribund already. In other words, they've become dry and not particularly rich in nutrients. And other than for maybe big herds of zebra or big herds of buffalo, animals are going to go into the woodland areas here, seeking out the bits of greenery that remain in the dry season. And that's certainly what this elephant is doing. Josh, it's not the wildebeest that have problems with gas. It's human beings who have problems with gas if they eat too much of the gum from those acacia trees like Dylan was doing. But elephants actually do have a tremendous problem with gas. Well, not a problem, but they make a lot of gas. And that's because they're what we call a hindgut fermenter. Now, that's quite complicated, but all you need to know is that they've got a great big piece of the stomach way near the back end.
You got that, Marcel? Welcome back, everyone. Terribly sorry about that. It appears that we've been having a couple of technical issues, both here with our audio and with Juma. Unfortunately, our warthogs have disappeared. So, Isabella, aged 11, I was busy answering your question about the warthogs having warts and why they're called warthogs. So before we get into the birds that are in front of us, let's have a look at what a warthog looks like up close. So here is a couple of pictures of warthogs. So see here on their faces, look at how round and like bumpy their faces are. They've got those little bumps, those little warts, and that's where that name comes from. Now, they're not warts like you or I get. They're not caused by a virus. It's just a part of the warthog's body. And they are probably most important in a male. So have a look at this warthog here. This one is a male. See how he's got a wart under his eye there, and he'll obviously have one on the other side of his face in the same place. But then he's also got one just behind his big tusks here. And that's how you can tell the difference between a male warthog and a female warthog. See the female here? She's only got these little warts under her eyes and no warts behind her tusks. And the reason why is because the females don't need to fight with each other, but the males do. And so those warts can help to be almost like a defense mechanism, like a shield almost against other warthogs. And it can also kind of show how big and strong the warthog is. It's like a warthog flexing his muscles to other females. All right, I hope that answers your question. But now coming back to the birds in front of us, have a look at this big flock of hardy-dar ibises that are here in front of us. Look at those dark brown bodies, and look at how pretty those wings are. They've got like this pink sheen to them. Very shiny and iridescent, sparkling in the sunlight. And for those of you that live in South Africa, you will be very well acquainted with these birds. For those of you that haven't visited South Africa or other parts of Southern Africa where these hardy-dars occur, they make a very loud and raucous honking sound, almost like and they often wake people up early in the morning, so a lot of people don't like them very much, but they're fascinating creatures. Look at how long those bills are that they've got, and see what they're doing now, how they're walking around, taking a few steps, and then sticking those long bills into the ground. And they're looking for little things like earthworms and any other little creatures that might be living in the sand. And they'll stick the bill into the ground and kind of wiggle it around a bit, and they've got a super sensitive tip to that bill, and they'll be able to feel if there's any movement, and if they can feel something, they'll quickly grab it, they'll pull it out, and then they'll swallow it. So an underappreciated bird in my opinion. Like we said, very, very, very pretty and fascinating in that feeding mechanism of theirs. I'm sure if we watch for long enough, we'll get to watch one actually catch something. And what we're looking for is, like we said, he's going to stick his head into the ground, he's going to shake his head around a little bit. And then if it does catch something, it will lift its head up and there'll be like almost like a little jerk, because it's going to kind of throw the worm back into its mouth, catch it and swallow it. I've seen quite a couple that looks like they've caught things while we've been sitting here and watching. Leaping lizard, you say that you didn't know hardy-dars had pink on them. Leaping lizard, it just depends on the angle at which you look at them. So I'm going to show you quickly in my bird book what they look like under kind of dull light. So there is a picture there of the hardy-dar ibis. See, it doesn't really look too spectacular. That iridescence is nothing or nearly comparable to something like a glossy ibis. Look at how that stands out. Or the southern bald ibis, also super iridescent, super colorful. But under the right light, leaping lizard, those wings are super pretty, super iridescent. And that just comes from the light reflecting through the feathers. It's not an actual pigment in the bird's feathers that causes that. But a fun start to our safari with a bit of birding. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find for you in these clearings and thickets.
Now, we have something for you here, but I think you might struggle to find it. And that's because it's very camouflaged. So Davy is going to very, very slowly zoom in closer so you can see what we have. Now, believe it or not, you're going to have to look closely. We have a butterfly. We have a guinea fowl butterfly, and it's feeding. And this is actually really, really incredible because we're in winter now, and this is the last of the summer insects. Now, can you make out the butterfly's head? It's standing and using its proboscis. Now, a proboscis for a butterfly is basically its mouth parts, and it's like a straw. So butterflies can actually eat. They don't have jaws or teeth. What they do is suck up liquid, and it's normally nectar. But they can do this with water and any sort of minerals and salts on the ground. And they're also known to sometimes suck up blood. Yes, butterflies drink blood. Can you believe it? So what this butterfly is doing is actually drinking the juice of these fruits. Isn't this amazing? I'll show you what the wings look like, because with butterflies, their wings are actually transparent, and they're made up of layers and layers of special scales, and it's the scales that reflect the light to give the color. Now, the butterfly that we're actually looking at here is the guinea fowl butterfly, this one. It's very beautiful, and there's a lot of them around right now. I think it's the last of the sort of butterflies that we will see, and on the underside, it looks completely different. And this is a form of camouflage. So on the top, it's going to camouflage with the spots in the vegetation. And when it's sitting with its wings upright, it will also be camouflaged in a different type of vegetation. Oh, let's see if Darby can find it again. Yes, there you go. Now I'm wondering if it'll let me get a little bit closer to it so we can, oops, sorry, I just rolled a car, to see if we can see what it's feeding on. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we can do this. I'm going to show you a really interesting thing about female butterflies too. Okay, Davy, you're going to have to direct me. Oh, I can see it. There's another one, different species. Is it away? Let's have a look at what it was feeding on. Some rotten fruit. Lovely, and that's exactly what it was drinking. And what female butterflies can do with their legs, believe it or not, is they land on a plant and they drum their legs really, 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 really quickly, quicker than I can probably do. And what this does is stimulates the plant to release chemicals. And the females have hairs on the back of their legs that can taste those chemicals. And that means that the females can understand if that's the right plant to lay her eggs on. Butterflies are really, really incredible animals. And I have to say, they are my favourite insects. But unfortunately, they don't live very long, which means that they're all coming towards the end of their life cycle. They've laid their eggs, they've reproduced, and it's time for them to leave this earth. And you can normally tell when a butterfly is ready to leave or ready to die because it starts to look really, really tattered. The wings become very, very damaged, and you can see that they're much older. Felix, sorry, I just thought I saw a little lizard here, but I think I've scared it. Felix, you're wondering how old a butterfly can get. Great question. Now, it depends on the species. There's so many different species. I have a whole book of different butterflies that we get here. And normally the smaller ones don't tend to live as long as the bigger ones. Now that's a generalization, but the sort of longest you will find a butterfly living for is around 9, maximum 12 months. Normally on average 9 months. So it's really, really not a long life cycle for a butterfly. And of course, they start off as eggs, they hatch into caterpillars, and then they undergo an amazing transformation, and eventually they turn into a butterfly. And this transformation involves them completely liquefying. Their whole body melts down almost into liquid, but they have these specialized cells in their body that tells the cells that they now need to grow into a butterfly. It's really, really amazing. And a lot of people think that butterflies make cocoons, but that's actually more common for moths. Butterflies tend to form chrysalises, and that's where they undergo this incredible transformation from a caterpillar into a butterfly. Okay, I'm going to check this little water hole. I have a funny feeling it will be quiet to see if we can see any more gorgeous creatures, but for now, you're going back across to Pinda. Kingfisher.
Hello and welcome back. We've gone from that live warthog, or that family of living warthogs, and we've come around the corner and found an unfortunate warthog that died here, must have been a couple of months ago. It may have been killed by lions or maybe by a leopard. But just quite interesting, because we spoke about how those warthogs were down busy feeding with their heads close to the ground, and it's quite nice for us just to be able to have a look at the anatomy of the head of a warthog. So let's start with these teeth. Have a look at how big they are, firstly. They're big, round, strong teeth. And in the back of the mouth there, just like your teeth, if you feel in the back of your mouth, you've got those big, strong teeth there where you chew your food. And that's the same thing what this warthog will do. It'll chew up all the grass and all the leaves that it eats with these big molar teeth at the back. And if I run my finger over the top of those teeth, they're super, super smooth, which means that they've been used a lot. So this was a very old warthog when it died. Another cool thing, just having a look at these tusks. Look at how big and sharp that tusk is over there. So those are the tusks that we normally see on the warthog. It's the biggest and most obvious tusk that we see. But what people often don't realize is that there's a tusk on the top jaw and then a tusk on the bottom jaw as well. And while these tusks here are very big and scary looking, they're not very sharp. But if I feel these tusks on the bottom here, if I run my finger along the edge there, those are razor sharp. And so what happens is that when a warthog chews like this, can you hear that clacking sound? That's coming from these bottom tusks rubbing against the top tusk here. And if you look on the inside edges, look at how flat and smooth they are there, and how flat and smooth it is over here. So as that warthog chews its food, these bottom tusks rub up against the top tusks, and it causes these bottom tusks to get very, very sharp. And they'll use these tusks in self-defense. They'll swipe their heads at an attacker, like a lion or a leopard, if it tries to grab them. They are very cool. Another pretty cool thing is I spoke about the warthog boars and how they'll use their tusks to fight. And look at how big and flat their heads are here for pushing against each other when they fight. Omar, you're asking if warthogs can hurt lions. Omar, they most definitely can. Now, a lion is a very big and powerful cat, and so most of the time a lion will be able to overpower a warthog without too much incident. But if a lion is not careful, it could either get stabbed by one of these big tusks as the warthog kind of throws its head trying to defend itself, or if it swipes its head kind of like this at the lion, it could also cut the lion with these bottom tusks. And I think the most common occurrence with that is when a warthog is down its burrow. Remember I said earlier that warthogs will sleep in burrows at night. And whenever they go into their burrow, they never go in head first, they'll always reverse in. So that these tusks are there to protect themselves. So if a lion or a leopard comes down the burrow and tries to dig the warthog out, that warthog will then be able to use its tusks to defend itself against that lion or leopard. But yeah, always fun to get to have a close look at the workings of an animal, looking at its bones. I'm of course going to wash my hands after this. Yeah, very nice. I'm gonna put the skull back where I found it, and let's carry on making our way through these clearings. Right, we're going to see what else we can find, and hopefully we'll be back with you shortly with some more awesome things to show you.
Right, we are back, and I'm sorry you lost us for a second there. I'm not entirely sure what happened. My brain is too small to understand these things, but we're still with our elephants. And that's the young one that we had earlier. And there is a much bigger bull who is now giving me what can only be described as the evil eye. Now, I don't want to move because he's just kind of starting to relax. And here comes his mate now to say hello. BK, you might want to turn your attention to the bull that is now only 3 meters from us. He seems to be much less concerned about us than his pal behind. His pal behind, I think, is probably about 10 years older, and he's got much thicker, heavier tusks. There's a little pan of water in front of us. I was hoping they were going to come and have a drink, but they seem to be not thirsty right now. Smelling us, lifting his trunk, trying to decide if we mean him ill, which we don't, of course. Sebastian, no, I'm not in imminent danger from the elephant, but I need to be careful of his behavior. So when he turns and looks at us like that, I need to ask myself the question, is he doing it because he really wants us to leave? Is there a chance that he could try and close the gap between us and maybe charge us? Do I have space to drive away if that does happen? And my assessment of this situation is that he's definitely aware of us. He's not that relaxed, but he's not having a panic attack either, and so I don't think he's about to attack us, and therefore, no, I don't think that we're in any real danger right now. Let's just do a little turnaround so we don't have to look over the backs. They're just easing their way out into the clearings, and I'm just getting in front of them so that can have a nice look. Respect. I was saying that I didn't think there was a great deal left because of the season, and what they're eating is not actually grass. They're picking up forbs, bits of what we call herbaceous plants. In other words, plants that are not grass, but little flowers and that sort of thing. And you can see maybe from that picture that the one behind is quite a lot bigger than the one in front. So, Sebastian, I don't know where you live or where you come from or if you've ever been on a safari like this, but if you ever do find yourself on a self-drive safari where you don't have a guide, you're just driving yourself around, and there are lots of places in Africa you can do that, my advice to you is the following. If you are ever in doubt about whether or not an elephant's behavior is threatening or is indicating that he might not be happy, just move away. Don't ever kind of hang around and think, well, you know, I'll show him who's boss, or I'm sure it's fine. If you're in doubt, it's always a good idea in the wilderness to increase the distance between you and the animal in question, especially with elephants. And if you're ever watching elephants, make sure that if you can, you've got a forward escape route. Oh, look at this. This is wonderful. You might push this tree over. Or break off a branch. That's very cool. Now, we have finished our kids session, so if anybody else would like to ask a question, please do so. Hashtag Safari Live or chat stream on YouTube or Twitch. That looks ridiculous. It looks like he's resting his tooth in the fork of the tree. Now, what is quite interesting is that both of these bulls have, I think, the least offensive way I can put this is both of these bulls have revealed themselves. The bigger one did it first. He has now withdrawn, shall we say, and the younger one still. And they both did it at the same time, which makes me think that there's some kind of communication going on between them. Some kind of signaling. I always feel a bit nervous when I look at an elephant in that particular state because, gosh, there are a lot of thorny things around here. So looks in imminent danger of standing on something that he might not want to. Imagine how an elephant would react if he did that by mistake. So the bigger guy is now walking very slowly from the right, but trying to kind of keep away from us. No, Bob, it's not your imagination. Elephants do mainly eat all day long. They do a bit of walking from one eating spot to the next, but for about 15 hours of every day, they have to eat. They have a massive nutritional need, and especially during winter when the quality of the forage is pretty low, they just got to keep shoveling the stuff through. It's one of the reasons why African elephants were a poor option for domestication versus their Asian counterparts, because their digestive systems are designed to cope with the very poor quality forage in many savannas of Africa, whereas their Asian counterparts are used to much richer forage, which means they don't have to eat for as long or spend as long each day foraging. Oh yes, what are you going to do now? And poor tree. Well, I think we're going to spend a little bit more time with these elephants while you go to the base of the Drakensberg Mountains and a bird.
Not just any old bird, it's a crested barbet, and it's special because it's on the floor. No, I'm just joking. It's not very common to see crested barbets down on the ground, because normally they're up in the trees eating fruit. You can tell that by the shape of its beak. Barbets love to eat fruit, but unfortunately there isn't much fruit available for this bird to feed on, so it needs to get its food from somewhere. So it's a normal thing for most bird species to supplement their diet with insects, or vice versa, sometimes supplement their diet with fruit and seeds. So I think what's going on over here is this crested barbet has found some ants or termites that are maybe just moving down on the ground, and that is what it is feeding on. But it's been interesting. It's the most relaxed crested barbet I've ever seen in my life. The only one that's maybe more relaxed is the barbet that lives at the Tswalu Eco Training Camp in southern Botswana. That one is also very relaxed and normally tries to steal breakfast, as do a lot of the bird species. Oh, yes, come out into the open so we can see you. No, it keeps just hiding. But it was actually in the middle of the road initially, and then it sat up in a tree for ages and cleaned its beak, but now it's back down on the ground. So it must be, maybe, do you know what it could be? It could be the harvester ants. There have been so much activity from those harvester ants. I did show you them one afternoon, and I think that's probably what they're feeding on. They're not very fast-moving ants anyways. They sort of take their time. They're very hard workers. That's more species of ants, and I think that's what it's most likely gobbling up. But they're very pretty birds. Please come out into the open. I actually have been enjoying doing a little bit of birding. I haven't been able to do much at all. I've been slacking. So it's good to pay a bit of attention to our feathered friends. And these are extraordinary birds just with their colours. All the yellows and very contrasting black and white on their wings. And then, of course, the signature rufous rump is my favourite. Troy, they are lovely. These are amazing birds, I concur. Especially when they're relaxed like this and not flying away. And just sort of showing some interesting habits. You see how it's just flicking open up all the leaves with its beak? Also being quite alert, though, while it's down on the ground. Again, like I said, not a comfortable position for this bird. Normally used to being up in the tops of the trees. There was also a white-browed scrub robin that flew on past but didn't hang around for very long, I'm afraid. Some blue waxbills. We've been seeing so many of them. There's lots of blue waxbill nests around. Ooh, cat, I don't know if we're going to be quick enough to get it. There is, I think, the white-browed scrub robin in there. Yeah, I think we just got it. Anyways, perhaps that was a glimpse of a white-browed scrub robin, but we'll never know. Back you go across to Juma. Oh, okay. Sorry about that, everybody. I think I can see it again. Can you see there's a branch that sort of hangs quite low? No, it's just flown. Don't worry. Oh, no, it's still there. Yes, in there to the right a little bit. And then if you go, pretty much if you go straight in, I think it's still there. There was a, sorry about that, everyone. I'm not sure what happened. If you can go up a little bit onto that big branch. No, I think it's flown, unfortunately. There was a white-browed scrub robin. They're very easy to identify, just even by their behavior. If you're at a quick glimpse, when they're perched, they always flick their sort of tail up and down. But now it has gone. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so the reason why we are in this area is because we're trying to find the female leopard, so the pixie pan female and her two cubs. But unfortunately, no sign of them. They moved down towards Leopard Dam to have a drink, and then they got a fright and came back in this direction. but I haven't been able to find them. We went back to where the kill is. They're not there, unless they were hiding. We sat there for a bit, but I also haven't seen any tracks. Okie dokie. Right. We are going to go and check what's happening at Leopard Dam, and we'll try and find those elephants that we saw this morning. Or if you go back to Tswalu to see what Dylan is up to.
Look at these little beauts. For those of you who have been to Tswalu before, and for those of you watching maybe our researchers at work here, you'll be very, very familiar with these little guys. They're called hippoboscid flies or louse flies. So, much to my, what can I think? Well, I'll think of a term for it later. But so we just pulled into the area where this eland carcass is, and there are just gazillions of these things flying around. And these are parasites. One of the common names is a louse fly. Some people call them horse flies as well. But they are incredibly well adapted. They suck blood. So these are like flying ticks kind of thing. And if I stick my finger here, watch how they grip on. Look at that. They can hold on there. And I'm not hurting them. Well, oh, went straight. It made a beeline for Chandra. Oh, that's brilliant. Anyway, so we see we're not harming them, but they are incredibly irritating little creatures, and they get in flipping everywhere. So we are going to let them go, but I just wanted to show you, this is what we are going through out here. This is like Africa at its best. Anyway, they don't transmit diseases that I'm aware of. Chandra might transmit a disease to them, but I think they'll probably avoid him. But they are really, really cool, and they're extremely pretty little things. But what's really fascinating about these, okay, I'm going to let you go. There you go. You get a whole lot of different kinds, and these are like relatively large ones. You get tiny, tiny ones and they can be very host-specific sometimes. So you actually get ones that are parasites on swifts. And you know, these swifts can stay on the wing for days on end, sometimes even longer, literally. And these little swifts, they breed inside the nest. They get onto these swifts as chicks, and then they just spend the rest of their life up in the air, like buried under the feathers. It's just a different species, but it just shows you the diversity that's out there. So it's not only about, well, a live eland, but it's also about dead eland. It's about parasites. It's about everything out here. So it's still a bit early, I think, and a bit warm for brown hyena and jackal. We might be lucky, but we're going to spend some time where we saw the sengis yesterday. Maybe we'll... Control has asked, how did we catch? Because they actually land on you. And I'm trying to say, I've probably got a couple on me now as I'm sitting here, but I don't see any on Chandra. But they bite. The bite is not painful. It's not, like I say, there's no dodgy diseases they carry. They're just more of an irritation than anything else. But I'm sure we'll be encountering more of them before this afternoon's out. So you just grab them and pick them up. Have you got one? Oh, Chandra's got one. It's a gift for me. There we go. There we go. Chandra, this one is compliments of Chandra. It looks... Are you okay, little guy? You'll be fine. Chandra will get over it. All right, we're going to just carry on with our stakeout. There's another one, and see what the rest of the safari holds for you while we risk life and limb.
We're having the most fascinating time here with this elephant, and I don't think that tree is having a fascinating time at all. In fact, I think he's feeling very threatened indeed. This elephant has picked off a big branch. He's scraped and scratched himself, and now he seems to be stroking the tree and threatening to push it down, which is not very nice of him. Oh, don't do it. Really? Oh, it's not. Oh, there we go. I think that's probably what he wanted. Just a branch to chew on. That's fascinating. I suspect what we've just seen there, that's actually really amazing. I think what we've just seen there is an evolutionary adaptation to living with elephants. If you look at the top of the tree, you can see that lots of branches have been broken off there, and that's not from an elephant reaching up and pulling them off. It must have been from exactly what you've just seen there. And what it means is that there are joints in the tree that are, I think, specifically weak. So that if they are set upon by an elephant like this, they'll break off and drop to the ground. And that means that there's a chance that they will avoid the elephant pushing the whole tree over. And it's the same thing with their fruits, which, unlike a lot of fruits, ripen on the ground. They don't ripen on the tree, they fall off onto the ground and ripen there. How very interesting. Never noticed that before. Ha. Now he's been picking quite thick pieces of wood to eat off this tree, and I don't really know what's in it. Is that from Dove, I think? Dove wondering if male elephants are more boisterous than female elephants. Yes, in some ways they are, definitely. But what's interesting for me is that you can see it from the time they're tiny calves. The females are much more social, much more affectionate with each other, and much less likely to approach a vehicle and do those kind of funny trumpeting charges that baby elephants do. Those are almost always young bulls that do that. And when they hit puberty, the females are almost integrated already into the life of the herd, looking after the youngsters, caring for them, picking them up when they fall over, playing gentle cousin and nurse to other little babies in the herd. Whereas the bulls start to behave like male teenagers, human being teenagers basically, where they become more and more detached from the family unit, from the herd, to the extent that they still seek safety from the herd, but they will become more boisterous with each other, and certainly much more boisterous with, say, a vehicle. They'll come and investigate it, shake their heads, have a look, see what's going on, and the cows just don't do that. And for me, it's an absolutely fascinating study in the minds of male and female mammals, because in a lot of human sociology, they'll tell you, male and female are born exactly the same, and we're totally socialized into our roles, our societal roles. And while there is definitely some argument for that, I think that, it's biologically completely untrue. We know that now for sure. But you see it all over nature, where male and females react and live completely differently from the day they're born. And it means that their brains are slightly different. The males waste far more time fighting with each other. The females get on with the business of looking after and being integrated into the social fabric of the herd in the elephants. It's fascinating to see. This fellow is very ponderous and very considered in all of his actions. There is no movement that isn't entirely without purpose. Very carefully selecting each piece. Apparently we are now going from one Ellie to another Ellie with Taylor.
But this elephant is in not slow motion, but it is Kumo, my favorite elephant bull. In this section, there's also some very unhappy elephants up ahead, but it sounds like youngsters, and he has two friends that like to follow him around. So this is the collared elephant bull, the bigger one that we typically see on a daily basis. And he's just really relaxed at the moment and enjoying himself. Now, a fully grown elephant like this will probably defecate every single hour. I suppose that happens when you constantly keep eating and your digestive system works fairly quickly. High fiber diet is what Kuma probably would have said. And he's on the move. And he's moving in the direction of the breeding herd. I don't know which breeding herd it is, but I hope it is also my favorite herd of elephants. So we will see in a moment, because he's catching up to them. Shall we try and get ahead of him? I think so. Otherwise we're going to get a roadblock. And as much as I love staring at the rear end of an elephant, yes, it's one of my favorite things to do, I think that we will maybe just drive slowly past him. Well, he's walking parallel with the road, or he might turn. Maybe he's going to stop and feed on this tree that has already been pulled down. I've done a good job at destroying that. Hello, big boy. Okay, we unfortunately are not going to make it because he's going to get to the road before us. Sorry, Gert, I know I should have gone a little bit further forward, but I'm just so fond of his trunk that that was what I really wanted to look at. I wanted to see if his wound was healing. He had a little injury in between his tusks. You can see it's not completely healed, but it's definitely not as bad as what it was. It wasn't bad. I don't know what happened. Maybe a tusk got him, or he stabbed himself with a... Something that I can tell you is that he has had a drink recently because he's got a... Hello, boy. He's waved his trunk at us. I wave back. He's a lovely elephant. Now, what he was doing there, it's like classic displacement behavior where he pretends to feed, but that or he's just really... Why are you behaving like that? We didn't do anything. He's given us a side eye. No. We didn't move. We did nothing. Oh, he's very excited. What are you doing? Action is blowing straight towards him. One time with an elephant bull. Maybe 3 encounters in my guiding career where I've been chased by. And what happened the first time was I guess why we weren't going to off-road for this. Okay, big boy, let's see, whatever. I said to them, listen, I know it's but let's wait here on the road, and it might take 10 minutes, but we'll walk out. Then my guests were very happy. We sat and we were just listening to elephants, and the next minute we heard branches breaking, and my tracker said, Taylor, what's that sound? Anyways, it's pulling down or pushing over trees. The next minute we had a huge elephant bull out on the road. No idea he was in there. Thank goodness we didn't go off-road. I'm very happy that I don't off-road for Ellies. Anyway, he chased us for about 1 kilometer. That was not a fun time. Afterwards, this elephant that you can see has definitely got a limp. We have seen him a few times. He's a young elephant bull and unfortunately has something back right leg. I said before, I'm not a vet, but there's no obvious injury. It seems as though his right leg is a whole his other legs, and I suspect that it's a very old injury. Maybe he's fractured or broken a bone many years ago, or perhaps he snapped a tendon or a ligament, and that's resulted in the shortening of that leg. But I haven't got a clue. But he carries on. He's healthy. You can't see his ribs or his vertebrae, and he carries on. Look, he's keeping up with the rest of the boys. So I'm really happy just to see how strong animals really are, and how small what we might look at as, I suppose I can get rid of that now. I wanted to show the children the Tamboti tree, but we can always do that tomorrow. I forgot that I cut a small piece off. I'm not really sure what's wrong with that elephant, but he's fine. I mean, he's really not far off, and there's still more bulls coming from behind. So he picks up his technique of walking, and he interacts and he pushes and shoves the other bulls around, so he just goes about his life as if there's nothing wrong with him. I may have to do some picking up of branches off of the road to toss them off so I don't drive over them, while I get out to see what's happening that side.
The world's slowest continuing to eat bits of a tree that he tossed onto the ground, or that he broke off the tree and threw on the ground. And I suppose if you have to eat for the length of time he does every day, it's a good idea to try and use as little energy as possible. Now, I hope that he's going for you. He's been breaking off sort of, I'd say, 3-inch in diameter pieces of wood, and then chewing those to a pulp and swallowing them. Let's see if he does it again. And go. Like I say, he is the world's slowest elephant. Come on. That's it. No, he's just still doing some chewing at the moment, not ready for the next piece. Breaking it with his foot. Very dexterous. Probably not really a good piano player, but very effective front feet for breaking things. Brilliant. There we go. Oh, itchy ear. It's like he's taunting me. Eat it. Huh? Ah, there we go. See now what he's been doing. Let's see if he does it again. Yeah, and then he rests it in the crook of his trunk. See, I don't think he likes the bark, so he kind of rolls the bark around and then spits it out. And he eats the wood inside. Yum. He's pulled the bark out. See, he rests it there in the crook. That's so cool. Hear his skin rubbing against the tree now. The tree is now breathing in again. It had breathed a sigh of relief. Now its heart rate is increasing in fear or anticipation of this elephant's next move. Will he continue and follow his friend down south through the clearings, or will he turn to inflict more damage? Ooh, Shelley, I don't know what the largest tree an elephant has pushed down is. The biggest one I've seen, probably about twice, 4 times the width of that one there. And that one's probably about 2 feet across, 60 centimeters or so. Sometimes very big trees get pushed over or just don't survive the attentions of elephants because they've got a hole in them, especially with big marula trees. And what's happened is that fungus has got into the heartwood and rotted it, and so actually it doesn't take a huge amount of effort for the elephant to push the tree over. It also depends on what the tree's made of. If it's a marula tree, it's relatively soft wood. If it's a great big combretum, like a leadwood, then no, they won't push it. You know, that'll be roughly the limit of a tree that, a leadwood that size will be roughly the limit that an elephant can manage. As you can see, this fellow really is not in a rush. There's no ways that he is going to suffer from some kind of stress disease or stress-related illness. He's definitely not hypertensive, highly unlikely to have any inflammation in his body. Bika, his friend's coming back, having walked most of the way down to Maputo and back. I think we're going to head over to another elephant now.
Here we are. We just had the cutest sighting in the whole wide world. We had 4 little elephants all fighting one another. It was spectacular. It was the cutest wrestling match I have ever seen. But maybe it will happen again, fingers crossed. This is the littlest of the elephants that were playing, and was more a spectator than anything. I'm sure you can hear the ellies rumbling as they're all talking to one another. I've got all the old ladies standing next to me, so I'm just keeping an eye on them. So I apologize if it sometimes seems I'm distracted. I'm not. I've just got lots of elephants around me. They're very relaxed. They're very happy, but there's a big cow just moving off to our left. Hey, big girl. That I'm just watching. She's fine. She's okay. Oh, here we go, Gat. Here comes the incoming elephant. This is my favorite time of the day. It's like when children eat too many sweets when they go to their grandparents' houses and they get fed chocolate chip cookies and sherbet with lollipops and ice cream, and then they come home to their parents and then they run around like crazy. Sorry, girl, we're just watching the wrestling, the WWE wrestling match that's going on right now between the young elephant calves. I don't know where to look. They're very entertaining. Wait, one's going to try and jump on the other. Hey, that's not fair. That's quite a big elephant in comparison to the other 3 little ones. You can see the size difference there. The one closest to us is is not very old at all. No, girl, I know you're beautiful, but please don't block our view. Thank you. There we go. Very dramatic. Now running off and just leaving the one little elephant alone. I think they will all come back. They're very riled up this afternoon. Prove me wrong and show me something cuter than little baby elephants playing with one another. Of course, I know that they're called calves, but, you know, baby elephant, also cute. And just the sounds of them feeding around us. Hey, big girl. They are full of beans. I'm just going to sit still as this Ellie cow just comes to feed next to us. Hey, big girl. Yeah, don't worry. Don't let your little calf come up to us, because then you're going to be unhappy. So take it with you. Now, I don't know if little elephant calf is going to be happy to pass. I cannot start the vehicle, though, because if I do start the car now, even though I'm moving back, I am going to cause a stir amongst the cows. That little calf is now standing with another mother. Off it goes, going to take the scenic way around. Bye, little elephant, you'll be fine. Oh, there we go. Just going to have a quick lay down, rest my legs after a long day at work. Don't back up again, because I can't make up my mind. Oh, this is too precious. Yes, little elephants. You don't know where to look, hey? We need about 6 cameras on the car this afternoon, so you can see all the action we have going on literally all around us. It's amazing. Now, it is very important, of course, to know where your escape routes are. It's okay, big girl. What's wrong? It's okay. Is there an elephant that gave you a fright? There was a bull that was coming quite close from behind. You couldn't see. It's okay, girl. Now, I know it sounds a bit ridiculous that I'm talking, but elephants are just so intelligent. They can really pick up the tones in your voice. I will move for you, I promise. But if you're happy for me to sit here, I'm also quite happy to stay here because this is really amazing. Thank you, big girl. So she's going back to where she was feeding initially. Elephants are funny animals. They make me laugh. Right, that one is getting down and dirty now. Well, it must feel amazing to rest those legs, especially when you're that age. It must be exhausting. And now I'm feeling the nice texture of the log. Oh, so many new things, sights, smells, textures. Other elephants to push and shove. Hello, girl. This is so... I don't even know what words to use to describe this. Hey, guys. Hi, big girl. Oh, look at this. Look how... Can I just show you how relaxed these elephants are? There's a cow. Oh, she stopped. But she stopped for a moment, and she was letting her calf suckle right here. And that is honestly just unbelievable. Hey, girl. Hey, big girl. She's going to wipe her eye and her ear. It's okay. You have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, elephants, for allowing me to sit here and experience this with you. You too, little one. You too. I think it's very important to spend time with elephants, and I always say this as a guide. It's the most important animal to learn the behavior of as a safari guide. Because if you can't understand elephant behavior, you are going to get yourself into very tricky situations. And there's something else that I'm pretty sure every single guide experiences, is this gut feeling that you sometimes get with elephants. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Other days, like, you just feel calm and everything feels fine, then it's okay. Trust your gut. I get those days. I get them, with big bulls. Like I say, I don't like it when big elephants tower over the top of me. I do think it's precious when young elephants think that they're really big and tough and mock charge the cars. That's quite entertaining. But we don't want to teach them any sort of bad habits. I think we bruise their egos when they charge at us, and then there's just laughter that erupts from the cars. And you'll see them, they always get embarrassed. It's funny, and then they run away. Well done on climbing over that branch. This is unbelievable. And the smells. I love the smell of an elephant. So earthy. It smells like home. I don't know why, but it just does. Kat, how does it feel to be up top where you are with all these elephants? Kat's response is he doesn't know because he's just so emotional by this whole experience. Kerry, yes, it's one thing that you can get from an elephant or elephant sighting is you can just feel the energy oozing off of them. It's amazing. What are you eating? What vine have you got? So it was funny. Yesterday we were watching a Nyala bull, and we did try to get him live for you, but I think our signal was just not so great. But this elephant down here, and he keeps picking up a vine that you're munching on. I don't know what it is. I've actually seen it growing at Djuma before on the fence post near the camp, and I found the larvae, so the caterpillars of the monarch butterflies. So it must have some kind of a milky latex to it or cyanide property to it. Off they go. They typically feed on those poisonous plants. But of course, we don't need to turn the camera too far to get the next set of elephants. She's really tucking into that bush. She's got her whole head stuck in there. The cat has got an elephant feeding over his shoulder as well. Not quite over his shoulder, but almost. I'm sure the audio must be spectacular of these giants feeding. Russet bush willow for dessert, it seems. And then that light, that golden light, just coming through the leaves. Also another great opportunity, photographic moment. Look at that, stretching her trunk right through, framed by the bush willows. Wow. Wow. Okay, we're not going to move a muscle. I think I'm just going to take this moment to really enjoy the elephants.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Oh, look at how big this bull is. Everything with him is just so big. The size of his tusks, possibly the biggest I've seen in a while. Look at the size of his forehead and how sunken his indentations are on the forehead there. It's really quite an old elephant. This will be easily late 40s to the early 50s already. It's already seen better days. Look at what he's doing with his trunk there, holding the grass and shaking it around. Looks like he's dozing off slightly as he continues feeding. Ooh. Look at his right eye. Looks like he's got an injury of some sort. It looks like part of the eyelash is just around on the back corner of that eye. It's missing. Difficult to say what might have happened there. Could have been nearly poked on the eye in a fight with another bull. Or it could have been a small injury from flies and stuff that ended up eating around the eye. Particular could have happened when he's young. It doesn't look like it's so anymore, but you're seeing the inside right part of the eye there. Listen to him as he moves away from us. It really makes him look super huge now that you can see him nicely. Listen to him exhaling there, taking a seriously deep breath. Look at what he's just did now with his trunk, how he's curling his trunk and resting it on his trunk. Understand why he will do that. That's quite a heavy trunk by the looks of things. It's really, really thick from the bottom of the tusks there. Well, Jen, this will be considered as a big tuskers, but I've seen other tuskers that are they've got tusks much bigger than he is, that are almost touching the ground. But like I said earlier, I haven't seen any elephant that's bigger than him in a while. So they tend to come, I think, in different times of the year. When they come into must, they cover serious distances sometimes. So there is two different tuskers that I've seen in the past. One is called Duke, who is mostly quite far north in the Kruger Park, but he comes around this area sometimes. And another one that I don't know if it's even named, that we have seen about maybe 6-7 months ago, that he was around for a bit, but I haven't seen him in a while. So this guy is the biggest tusker we've seen in a while in this area. Robin, elephant's teeth are flat. They are molars, similar to your teeth right at the back of your teeth. I don't know how old you are, if you've already started developing those, but their molars looks exactly like ours right at the back. And they get 6 sets of those in their lifetime, which one pair is active at a time. So if you find an elephant skull, you can be able to see some of them will look nicely, still nice and grooved, but some will be quite worn out. Once they're worn out to a point where they can't chew properly, they will get replaced from the back of the mouth. Jackson elephants tend to live anything between 60 and 65 years old in the savanna biome, because and the only thing, they don't have any natural enemies, so they will die of starvation when all their teeth has been worn out. However, elephant bulls sometimes might have a shorter lifespan because they also fight a lot when they compete for the mating rights. So females are the ones that tend to live past 60 at times and end up dying of old age at around between 60 and 65. Look like this guy is slowly moving and feeding, sort of heading directly towards where the sun is. You can see, if you catch a glimpse of his tusks, how nice and shiny they look at the moment. It looks like he might have earlier on been in the waterhole, which was not too far from where we are, for his drink. Maybe even took a little bit of a swim, looking at how nice and shiny his tusks are looking at the moment. So we'll let this guy carry on with his day as he disappears into this thick bush, and we'll go back down and try and carry on and see if we can pick up any fresh signs of the lines we've been looking for.
We are at Buffelshoek Dam, and what caught my eye here was this buffalo thorn and other signs that summer is over. Forget speed dating or Tinder, this is how the weavers do it. We spend all summer long admiring these nests, and then when winter comes, it's rather sad to see them just dilapidated and empty and falling apart. I'm talking of falling apart, I actually have one in my hand right now. Yes, I risked my life, went into the dam and got it. Now it's still semi-intact. The wind's blown it, I probably should hold on to it. But I think this means that Davy can give you a nice, clear view of the structure. It's been woven so intricately. If you go closer, this has all been done by the beak of a weaver. And of course, it's the males that do it. They build the nests and proudly present them to the females. But the female doesn't always accept. She can reject, she can ignore, or she can tear it down. And the thought of it being torn down is rather sad. And according to studies, it happens a lot. Females reject them and tear them apart quite a lot. It's not discreet, it's rather, well, insulting for the poor male. And the males are said, I'm just going to show you how tough this is. Now, this is, of course, dried, no longer in use, but it's actually very, very tough to break apart because it's so intricately woven. Now, hopefully, I'm just having a little look inside, this was a success this year. I'm trying to look for any feathers or signs of little ones. We do have some sort of insect. It's not alive though, it's the exoskeleton. So I'm going to throw this back in the dam, but I just thought that was really interesting. The nests are no more, and they may stay around, but of course due to weathering they'll start to break apart and most likely fall into the water, and that is the end of the nests. Oh, come on Wendy. There we go. So I am going to check the cut line and then head to my favourite place, the hyena den.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinder, everyone. We've been driving around trying to find some areas of good signal, and we've managed to find this big group of crested guinea fowls. And for some of you, this may be a bird that you've never seen before. I'm sure many of you have seen the close relative of this guinea fowl, the helmeted guinea fowl, with that ivory-coloured crest on the top of its head, and the blue face with the red wattles. So look at these crested guinea fowls, pretty similar looking to their helmeted cousins, but look on the top of their heads. Can you see, instead of the kind of bony crest, there's a plume of black feathers that almost looks like they are curly, almost like an old lady who's been to the hair salon with curlers in her hair. And then they've got that lovely kind of white collar around the black neck, almost like a preacher's collar. And then, if you have a close look at their wings, see that white bar along the flight feathers? If you look closely at those spots, you might just be able to see that they are, or that the wings where those spots are this brilliant blue color, which looks a bit better when they are bathed in sunlight. Comes down to what we were talking about earlier, that iridescence, like the hardy-dar's wings. So a lot of you saying it is your first time to see these crested guinea fowls. I'm super excited that I was able to show you a new bird species, as birders would say, a lifer. And I'd love to hear from some of you what your wild earth bird lists have gotten up to in terms of the different South African properties. It must be getting pretty high now. Oh, there's a little striped kingfisher that's just landed in the tree above that last guinea fowl. Marcel, I don't know if you're able to get just above that guinea fowl and onto those sticks there where they form an X. There's a little kingfisher in there. Oh, well done, Marcel. Have a look in there. There's a little striped kingfisher. Very similar to the brown hooded kingfisher that we frequently see, but a little bit smaller and with a little bit different coloration. And it's perched up there, scanning that pathway that those guinea fowl just went down, looking for any little insects that it can swoop down onto and grab. Those guinea fowl, having moved off, just like we said the warthogs would do earlier, how they'd head off to a burrow to sleep for the night, those guinea fowl are going to go look for a big tree to fly up into and roost. And often those guinea fowls can be a big help to us if we're searching for predators. And now that the sun is going down, there could be things like leopards that are starting to wake up and move around. And those guinea fowl will let us know. If they see a leopard, they'll start to alarm call, and we can then move into the area to have a look. Cincy, you say that you guys are seeing all the different kingfisher species. That's super special. They're such beautiful birds, and it's always wonderful to get to experience the different variety of species of them and see all the different array of colors. Now, it's quite a difficult view of that kingfisher, so I'd like to show you in the bird book what it looks like. So I'm just going to get it pulled up in the book. I think let's start with the guinea fowl. Just in case some of you didn't get a good look, and it'd be quite nice to compare it to the much more frequently seen helmeted guinea fowl. So there is the helmeted guinea fowl, the one that we are more used to, with that kind of like bony casque on top of the head, the blue face and the red on top of the head and on the wattles, and then of course that black body with the white spots. Then there's the crested guinea fowl with, like I said, the curlers in the hair, feathers on top of the head, that black collar, and then that beautiful, also black and white spots, but with a bit more blue, more of a blue tinge to the body. And then having a look at the distribution maps of the two. So have a look there. There's the helmeted guinea fowl. See, very widespread, found pretty much all across southern Africa. And then the crested guinea fowl, a lot more restricted in its range, kind of confined more to the eastern parts of southern Africa. Quickly across to that kingfisher, there is that little striped kingfisher that we just saw. see that very prominent black mask through its face. And then very similar to this brown hooded kingfisher, also with the red and black bill, although the striped kingfisher a bit more black in its bill, and then much smaller. Carissa, you're saying that you are on 179 to 180 on your 2020 bird list. That's fantastic. And are those all from Wild Earth? That's incredible. Well done. We've always got to set ourselves challenges when it comes to our birding lists and see how far we can get. I wonder, do you think you'll be able to make it to 300 by the end of the year? We'll have to do our best to help you to get to that number. I think it's a reasonable goal. Okay, we're going to carry on heading down this road, and we're going to go see what else we can find for you. We're going to be, like I said, driving still between these thickets and these open areas, see if we can find something interesting. Marcel and I have got a mission for this evening to try and find you a thick-tailed bush baby.
We've just had the most amazing little stink bug. I nearly lost the word there. Or also called a shield bug. Land on my shirt. And now he's making his way through the forest. So stink bugs are super, super common. And I say stink bug because it is a stink bug, number one. But secondly, one of the key things with people, many people say, "Oh, look, there's a bug," regardless of what it is. But there's a key difference between bugs and beetles. And I've got friends out there that if I called something a bug and it's a beetle, then they're like, "Come, Dylan, it's a beetle, not a bug." Anyway, so the key difference is most of these all the bugs belong to a group called Hymenoptera or Hymoptera. Not Hymenoptera is your bees, wasps, and ants. And then the beetles belong to what we call Coleoptera. And most of your bugs, these little guys, are sapsuckers. Before I poke my eye out here, either in the larval stage or in the adult stage. Whereas beetles actually can go for a huge range of prey items. And some are predatory, others go for vegetation. So that's just out of interest. We're still waiting for the return or a show on brown hyenas, but we can show you what we're actually waiting at. So we're going to release him unharmed, and there we go in the distance there. So this is what our scouts, or our field rangers rather, reported early this morning. It was just after we were already back, so we couldn't make it out Chanfar. We are out into the dunes over here. We haven't gone close to it, but it looks like it's an old eland bull. I would go around it on the other side, and we will at some point, but maybe not today. The reason I don't want to move now is we've kind of set up our position over here. We're actually downwind, or let's say crosswind of that carcass. So it's coming from the left-hand side of the screen across to the right-hand side of the screen. So I'm just hoping that brown hyenas or something will come in to feed. So nothing at the moment, but we'll just bide our time and wait.
Right, we too have got something dead, but not a mammal. We have got a crime scene that involves a lot of feathers. So, unfortunately, I think yesterday sometime, a hornbill was murdered, which is very sad. I'm going to come up to you now, Gert. And you can see some of its beak, and you can see its feathers, which makes it a southern red-billed hornbill. If you're wondering how I know, the beak. kind of gives it away. From the car, we didn't see the beak, and we're like, maybe green woodhoo poop. It doesn't have any iridescence in the feathers. But then, of course, they also don't have a beak exactly like this. But definitely from a southern red-billed hornbill. And now, there is no bones. There's absolutely nothing else that's left here other than this pile of feathers, which I shall leave on the floor and have to wash my hands a little bit later. So I think it might have been a jackal. I don't know. I mean, that's pretty good going for a jackal to catch something like a hornbill. So I don't know if it wasn't paying attention, maybe having a dust bath or something along the lines. But unfortunately, it got devoured here. Or maybe something else happened to it. It was poisoned well, not poisoned. I don't know why I said poisoned. It had died and the jackal had scavenged it. That could also be the case. But it pulled most of its feathers out of here. Samantha, did you say this looks like a crab leg? Okay. No, I'm just joking. Right, I'm done for the day. I'm taking some of the feathers as souvenirs, however, because I collect them. All of them. Now I don't know which ones to take. Okay, the reason why we're here is because we're actually looking for lions. I'm also taking the beak. Bit of a hoarder. Got lots of crazy dead things lying around in all my suitcases. I'm going to be a nightmare for customs one day when we can travel. Right, I'm going to carry on down the road searching for lions, and hopefully we'll find the toy cats.
Oh, talking of lions, we have lions' favorite food. Buffalo. Look at this one. Older buffalo, you see that? This is a mixed herd. We've got some youngsters, some females, and some males. There's a lot of buffalo around at the moment. I'm actually surprised that the Nkuhumas didn't come this way. Davi and I tried very, very hard this morning to find those avokas. They took us all the way to Elephant Plains. I just hope they start. Oh, look at that youngster, Davi. Just here. Oh, look at those little horns. Aren't they sweet? They have a longer gestation period than humans at 11 months. And you can see ooh, this is very, very cute. And they normally give birth to one calf at a time. You can see they're a lot browner in colour, light brown, and they're far fluffier than the adults. Oh, many of you are saying how cute this is, isn't it just? Especially compared to some of the adults. Yeah, it's like that one behind. Oh, it's tiny too. Oh, please don't urinate on your baby's head. That's not a good idea. And of course, buffalo try to keep their young in the middle of the herd. And that's because they'll make easy targets otherwise. You're not so cute. Can see some of the older boys really, really look old, and you can tell by they're covering themselves in mud. A lot of their time they're injured, and mud soothes the skin and those injuries. Look at you, you're also bizarre looking. We've got quite a lot of interesting looking buffalo here, I must say. And the bulls actually rank themselves within a herd. And it's a product of their fighting ability. So that's how buffaloes rank within a herd. The sort of biggest, strongest, best fighter will be the more dominant one. But it's directly proportional to age and size. So sort of you can guess, just by looking at a herd, the oldest, largest male will be the boss, literally. Flaming grimace. What do you... I think I know what you smell. A lady just urinated there. And I think he is smelling exactly that. Kerry, you're saying you like the way they stare. Yes. Can make you feel quite self-conscious sometimes when a buffalo just looks at you like that. But a lot of the herds we've seen lately, there has been females in estrus, which of course sends the males a little bit crazy, shall we say. They cannot resist a lady in estrus. And all the bulls are completely superior to the cows. And therefore, when a cow is in estrus and a male does approach, there's really not much of a choice there. The bulls are in charge of the entire herd. Kerry, this one's for you. I think we need to give this one some dental floss. Sammy Jane, you're saying you wonder if they get itchy under those helmet horns. I know, it looks like that. I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious now. It does look like they're wearing a helmet, but of course, they're very, very similar to other antelopes, even impala. But those bosses, the boss is the part right on top of the head. And we were just looking at a youngster when the boss hadn't fully developed. And here, the boss has. And that protects them from head-on collisions. But it looks heavy. And you're right, Sammy Jane, I wonder if they could just lift it off and have a good scratch. And of course, there's always the red bulldog pickers. Look at the wounds, look at the scars. You can see it almost looks like it's going bald. And it's not, essentially. Bark and maybe dry mud, wallows. Has this one got a damaged nose? What has happened to your nose? And look how tattered the ear is. You can really, really see. That's an old buffalo right there. Been through the wars. Taffy, we're still being stared at. Now, if you look at this youngster, you can see the boss is not formed yet. Lust, you're asking, is that mange on the face? It's actually not. No, sorry. It's where they've lost hair, dry skin, dried out mud. So because they go very, very bald, they quite literally rub the hair off themselves. They lose hair, cover themselves in mud constantly. And this is just the dry skin underneath. And a lovely dirty bottom. So it's not mange, no. You can see them smelling. Buffalo have actually got incredible senses. They don't have the reputation of being the sort of most intelligent. Iso, you're saying he's got a toothpick. A built-in toothpick. Or two. Isn't that handy? You never have to search for one. It's there. But yes, they don't have the reputation for being the most intelligent animals. But of course, they are intelligent in the world of buffalo. But they have excellent senses. So they have really well-developed sight and hearing. But the sense of smell is the best. That champions all the senses, and you can see they're constantly using their nose. And we just saw a flaming grimace earlier as well. And that's because they're tasting the chemicals in the air. They're trying to understand what it is that they're smelling. They use their sense of smell to communicate socially as well. So it's very important for herd dynamics. And it's actually believed that coordination within a large herd like this is actually sort of controlled by olfactory cues. So smell is really, really important for buffalo. And they do vocalize to one another as well, as you can hear. It's not Davi's tummy, it is actually the buffalo. Stuck in bed, good to hear from you. You are asking about the hairy belly buttons. Well, actually, that is not a belly button. That is, in fact, a penis. But yes, it's rather bizarre because it is so far forward, right in the middle of the tummy, that it looks like a hairy belly button. But shall we say it's a hairy penis? And of course, it's so far forward to obviously allow mating. For being such large animals, males have to mount. And I can imagine that's not easy because the females are also very large. And therefore, the penis is slightly further forward than the testicles. But stuck in bed, you're right. Hairy belly button might have been the easier description there. Oh, that youngster is just too cute. But unfortunately, young buffalo would make really easy pickings. Oh, some of you are mind blown that it's not a belly button. Yes, I know. It really doesn't look like what it actually is. But it makes it easier to tell the difference between male and female. So this is a female here, Davi. I'm not sure if you can get a good view of this one. She's just turned to the side. But you can see there is no hairy belly button as such. And that makes it easier to tell the difference between male and females. You can look at the face as well. They're different in the shape of the horns and the bosses. But I think looking for a extended hairy belly button, shall we say, is the easiest way. You see his teeth. See, smelling. It's smelling us, I think. Oh, what a wonderful sighting. If we just take a little look at the road, we are going to race to the hyena den, I promise, but there's a slight roadblock. So we're going to have to wait that out for now.
Hello, glad to have you back. So we've been driving through some of the thickets. Like I said, we're going to go and try and look for a thick-tailed bush baby this evening, and I'll show you a picture of what that looks like in just a sec. But coming past all of these thickets, something caught my eye. Have a look at this. So this tree here is what is called a balloon thorn. It's a kind of thorn tree, a tree formerly known as, was part of the genus formerly known as acacia. Have a look at how big and fat these thorns are. They're absolutely enormous. But having a look around the tree, see how there's not too many of them. There's only a couple of them that are big and fat like this. And it's because this is not the tree that makes its thorns go like this. This is how the thorns normally look. I'm just going to pull this little branch off to the side here. Don't know if you can see those thorns there, how small they are. And while they're small, they're super sharp and they're hooked like little fishing hooks. And how it gets from this to this is that a little ant, a species of ant, comes and stings the thorn kind of repeatedly, and it causes the thorn to balloon like that, hence the name balloon thorn, and swell up. And if you look very carefully, just on the edge here, there's a tiny little hole, and that's the hole into which the ants will go, and they'll have their little homes inside this swollen thorn. And so the ants get a little place to live. In return, they can help defend the tree. They bite and they sting, so if anything comes and starts to feed on the tree, or if there's any insects coming to infest the tree, the ants can help to protect it against that. There's a couple of different thorn trees throughout Africa that have a similar kind of symbiosis with ants, but this is the one that we get here, the balloon thorn. Also, just quite interesting, we said that now with the sun setting, that predators like leopards are going to start to move around through these thickets, and we're going to be listening out for any sounds of alarm calls that might alert us to their presence. Just a bit of fun. So the local people, the local language that's spoken in this part of South Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal, is called isiZulu, and the name of this tree in isiZulu is Ibamba Impala, which means to bamba, to catch, and impala, an impala. So in isiZulu, this tree is called catch an impala, and that comes from these vicious hooked thorns. The saying goes that if an impala tries to run away from something like a leopard, if it jumps into these thorns, it'll get stuck because the thorns are so vicious and hooked. Let me show you quickly what this bush baby looks like so that you know what we're looking for tonight. We're going to head into some riverine areas with big trees, lots of big thorn trees that'll have gum for these bush babies to feed on. That's one of their favorite foods. And now that the sun is setting, because they're nocturnal, this is the time of day that they're going to start to get active. So look at those big teeth, and those are the teeth that they'll use to scratch into the bark of various kinds of acacia trees. You saw with Dylan earlier how he was eating the acacia sap. That's what these bush babies will use their teeth for. Right, so we're going to go see if we can find some really thick forest along the edge of a watercourse. And now with the sun setting, pretty soon I'm sure those thick-tailed bush babies are going to start to move around. Let's go see if we can find one. And the sun has just...
Guess who's wandered over the open plains here at Island for bulls? And they're just actually on their way here too. And I was hoping for a silhouetted elephant moment this evening, but I'm not sure if we'll get it because they're just eating all of the trees at the moment and eating all the bark off of everything that you can see. But there's one elephant that I'm hoping we can show you, but he's not playing ball right now. It's the elephant on the right-hand side. And I wish that he would turn and face us, because he's the most unusual looking elephant. Please turn and look here just one time. It is so funny. It's like he has got the cheekbones of a runway model. He's got like this sort of gaunt look to him. So you've all seen the duck face, the pouty thing that people like to do. That's what he's doing. But now he won't turn around. It's very funny. I've been laughing for about 10 minutes now. No, okay, maybe not 10 minutes. I'm exaggerating. But it's funny. It's just, it's weird to see. And I think we have seen him. I just haven't noticed it before. But now he's shy and he's just showing us his back end. That's okay. It's quite nice to have the front end of one elephant and the behind of another. But very peaceful. So we're still looking for the lions. I'll just give you a quick update. We had their tracks, the lioness moving in an easterly, but we thought just check this area that they do, but no luck. So I'm hoping we might find the girls on the move. We haven't seen them for a few days. Oh, careful. Trying to break that, but more force and looks like a knob thorn that he's eaten, is it? Yeah, it looks like I love to eat them. So wonderful. I can't show you this elephant now because now you'll never know what I'm talking about and you'll think I'm just telling you stories. But it's true. Also been listening out for contact calls, but it's been quite difficult because the elephants have been very noisy this afternoon with squeals coming from team, all sorts of things to annoy the other elephants. These boys breaking lots of... Right, it seems as though we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we'll see you back in a little bit.
Yes, this just gives you a nice idea of the location that we're actually sitting at, doing another one of our stakeouts. How's that, we're sitting at a carcass and we're doing a stakeout. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. I apologize. That's my really weak sense of humor coming through there. Yeah. But so the nice view that Jandre was giving you there before I spoilt it just gives you a nice idea that we're sitting in this big dune street and and this eland, I guess, it probably just, like it's an old bull, probably just finding a bit of shade. But then also these dune streets get super, super, super cold. Where we stay is right up against the mountains. And at the mountains, you get this lovely ameliorating effect. It's almost like this little thermal dome around the mountains. There's a lot of heat absorption during the day, and that sort of is given off into the atmosphere during the evening. So we're shielded from the worst of the temperatures. But as you move away from the mountains further out into the dune fields, from the base of the hills to our furthest western areas, about 100-meter drop. So although you're going over these successive dune crests, you're actually steadily going down and down and down. And so an old bull like this, I'm guessing it's an old bull. I mean, I'm just seeing the top of the neck, and that looks quite thin, and that's so. But then also, if he's battling to feed, whether it's reduced or intensive wear on the teeth, so he can't grind up his food properly, condition starts dropping, you can get parasite loads, internal parasite loads like hookworms and that start spiking, and that's just going to make him weaker and weaker. If you get a night where we're staying is 1 or 2 degrees or even 0 degrees, where we're sitting here now, you'll be hitting -3, -4, -5 easily. And for an animal that's not in good condition, that'll be very, very easily be fatal. So we're just going to bite the bullet here, and I'm hoping it's a very, very good time now. 5:15 here in South Africa. Still a lot of light left. I'm even surprised that we haven't seen a jackal yet. We've been hearing them in the far distance, so they are around. There was a lot when we drove in earlier. There's a lot of sign of jackal and brown hyena, and you can actually see how that carcass has been fed on a lot. No vultures have picked it up yet, and that could just be, it's only day one, but obscured by the bushes as well. Now, there's my favorite question for the day, or for the week, is how old do you need to be to start training as a guide? 0. Start on day 0. No, but seriously, like, you know, I can remember running around in the compost heap from as young as I can remember. I was getting my hands dirty, and probably if you speak to most of the other guides as well, they're going to say similar kind of things like that. It's like, you just need to have that passion inside you for learning about things. And even if it's learning about your dog at home, your pet at home, looking at caterpillars on the grass, things crawling on flowers in the garden, just start learning. There is no age that you can start learning. You can get to a point when you start officially studying, whether you study conservation or you do some degree in biology or wildlife management or whatever, or you do a pure guiding course. By the time you get to those points, you've already got a really, really, really good grounding. So no age is too young to start, ever, 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 ever. And guiding doesn't have to necessarily mean it's being out in the field with a nice game drive vehicle like this, or carrying a rifle around and taking people that are coming to these reserves. It could be calling your mom outside and saying, hey mom, look at this cool bug, even if we call them bugs to start with, that I found in the garden. Or showing your dad some weird little thing, a spider that's made a web, you know, or your brother or your sister or your friends at school, watching birds. If you go to a shopping centre and someone goes in, there's birds flying around, learn to identify them. There is no age at all that is best. And you know what? You can be 80 years old, sitting at home, and you can learn about these things. You don't have to, and you can be showing and educating people about them. Any age, doesn't matter how young it is, doesn't matter how old it is the best age for learning about these things, to be able to explore it and show people and get that appreciation across. I'm a big believer in that, I'm a huge believer in that. There's Jandre's going on to one of his favourite birds in the foreground here. There we go. Hey Jandre, that's a white-browed sparrow weaver, eh? Yeah, he's nodding agreement there. Ooh, there's a question there. I'm getting led into, like, to reveal how old I am. I started taking people on guided walks outside a nature reserve, or inside a nature reserve, just outside Johannesburg, on the outskirts of Johannesburg, called the Klippriviesberg Nature Reserve, and I was asked to do that if I wouldn't mind, for plants and birds and that kind of stuff. And I was 14 years old. That was for no money. That was just literally taking people on guided hikes to the area, and my dad would accompany me, and occasionally one of the other members of this little association. But it was really just exploring, and it was small. It was 500 hectares. You know, so it wasn't a big area, but that's where I started cutting my teeth. And yeah, I've been involved in guiding in various capacities ever since then. So, and I'm really tired of it now. You know, I don't enjoy it. I come out here, you know, no, I like it a lot. No, it's the best though. Just, it's, and I've said it before. It's such a privilege being able to be in this environment, and it's not my primary role here by any means. You know, one of my key focus points is the research that we do on Tswalu and all the different research aspects of that. But I help out with guiding. I absolutely love it. It's a real passion of mine, because I believe if you can get people to enjoy the outdoors, they will start loving it. And when you start loving something, you'll start looking after it, taking care of it, and helping other people start taking care of it as well. And it starts at home. It doesn't start in these places. This kind of thing starts at home. So, yeah, I've been involved with guiding for a couple of years, and I think I might be involved in guiding for quite a few years still to come. There's a wildebeest just standing way down there. He's just giving us the hairy eyeball there. There you go. It is a blue wildebeest. I don't know why he's feeling so blue. That's also called a gnu. Yes, what a beautiful setting, Jandre, hey? With the dew in the mountain in the background. Yeah, he's got a long face. We have good news and we have bad news. I think this is just good news. One of the other names for this species is a brindled gnu. You know, and brindle is that lovely patterning on the flanks. And you can see that very, very clearly on this bull. Oh yeah, coming back to that. So this is a bull. This will be a dominant bull within this area, a territorial bull. And we haven't seen any cows around this earlier. We had a nice herd a couple of drives back. So he'll have his little patch around here in this area somewhere, and then a kilometre or two away there'll be another one with his little territorial patch. And scattered through this landscape you'll have a number of these bulls, and then the herds, the females with the youngsters, they move through these areas, and then the bulls will just mate with them in turn. This is a very exciting time. Every time of the day is exciting, but I love this kind of sunset time. And I think it may well, if we're really lucky, whoa, he's going off. You know, if we're really lucky, we stick around, we may see something. So that's what we're going to do. And let's see what the other guys have got.
Spotted hyena. Beginning of a long night coming ahead of him. Possibly just got up wherever he spent most of his day. Now about to move, stop, try to listen. Hear if they can pick up any sound of anything or any scent of anything that smells like food. See how he's put his nostril right onto the ground there. So there will definitely be a scent of some sort. It could even be a scent of the lions we have been looking on for the whole day that we haven't found, because the tracks have walked past right where he's sniffing at the moment. It looks like he's chewing on something, but I can't see what. It was just him trying to pick up a sand on the ground there. See how alert he is. Looking around everywhere, wanting to familiarize himself with exactly what's happening around here before he carries on for the evening. So hyena, we only see this one now, but they live together in family groups called clans. So wherever he just came from, there might be the rest of the clan also maybe just started to move in all different directions. They not following each other around to try and cover as big an area as possible in such a short space of time. Should he think that he heard something or smelled something, he will head right onto that direction. Should he come across something like the pride of lions we've been looking for on a carcass, of course it's impossible for him to be able to steal that alone. He will have to start calling for backup for the rest of that land. But if he comes across a leopard on a small carcass, he doesn't need nobody. He will try and do a job by himself. If it's still on the ground, he'll steal it, eat it. If there is anything left, he'll take home. So this hyena here, right now starting the day before it gets dark, is facing a very long night ahead. He could move easily over between 80 and 100 kilometers in one night trying to find food. And if you look at their tracks, if you see tracks on the road, like we've been looking at tracks of lions, and you can see him keeping on moving around behind the bushes there. They don't often pick a direction and head towards that like lions will do. They often move in circles, change direction very quickly. Right now it doesn't look like he's made up his mind about what is he going to do for the evening, which direction is he going to head. But you can see if you look at his ears, he's listening attentively. All you can hear right now is bird chorus saying good night to one another, and that the fact that they're still alive before it gets too dark, and that is no use for him. Can I move forward? Can you see? Yeah. So, I'm gonna move slightly forward. There's a better view here. Where are you going? It looks like when I decide to move forward, he decides he's gonna head away as well. He's straight in line with those bushes there. So looking at the fact that he's disappearing and looking like if he eventually decided which direction he's gonna go, we will leave him alone and let him carry on with his long night and wish him luck that maybe he will be lucky to get something to eat before sunrise tomorrow morning.
We are going towards Biffleshoek waterhole on the northeastern corner of Djuma. We've come out of Simbambili. As you may notice, I'm dressed slightly more warmly than when you last saw me, and that is because the temperature has plummeted somewhat. We came off Simbambili having returned to our elephants, but unfortunately there was no signal, so we came back out onto Djuma. And now we'll see if we can find some creatures here. I'll just quickly tell you that on my right-hand side here, there is burnt grass, which I explained this morning, but to those of you who weren't watching, this is a fire break. So we're heading into fire season now. Sort of, I guess, from about August or so, we could expect natural fires to occur, mainly September and October, but from about August. And what this does is it gives you a head from which to launch a back burn if something comes, or it will hopefully just stop a fire that comes from the north. That's the general plan. But I really love this simply because of the smell. Because normally the natural fires burn around August time, and that always makes me think of the coming spring. So it's a little bit early for that, of course. In fact, it's about a month and a half early for that. But the smell of it just reminds me of the clearing off of the moribund winter grass and the return of the green, which will not be for another 2 months or so, at least. That is all I have to say about that. But we're about to arrive at Biffleshoek waterhole, where, as you know, there is always a great mass of animal life. Let's see what delights await us here, the water. Such a lovely smell. Caitlin, I don't rightly know, I'm afraid. The main minerals and nutrients that an elephant needs, I couldn't tell you further than what they would normally get out of grass and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I couldn't be, further than what we need. I don't know that there are any majorly specific things. I don't know enough about the physiology of elephants, I'm afraid. I do know that in an area like this, calcium, for example, can be a problem. Phosphorus can be a problem because the soils here are very calcium poor in general, and so you'll find that animals often will seek other forms of calcium, like bones or eggs, eggshells, and that sort of stuff. I don't think elephants do that, but elephants will eat soil from time to time, so I'm sure they probably get a little bit of calcium from that, but probably mainly iron and that sort of thing. That's a really nice question, but I'm sorry I can't give you a more satisfactory answer for. As I said, here at Biffleshoek Waterhole, there is a massive diversity of animal life. Do you see that, BK? Gosh, I don't even know where to look. There are a couple of grebes, 5 or 6. And there is some nice sound, so let me be quiet for a second. And see if they don't pop out there where BK is pointing the camera. That's where I can hear them. I always think, or I don't always think, it's the first time I've thought it, when you get a gathering of human beings together, and if you ask them all, let's say there were 30 people, and you said, okay, everybody make a random sound, you can imagine the very last thing or adjective you'd use to describe the overall sound would be beautiful. Whereas here in nature we've got probably 30 or 40 different sounds from completely different animals, from the elephants breaking the trees, to the francolins screaming, to the grebes fluttering across the water, to a hippo breathing out. And yet somehow it all meshes into this magnificent natural symphony. I'm going to sneak slightly forward because I think the elephants are probably coming down to drink just at the end here. Let's just see if they're not at the end of the waterhole. No, they don't appear to be down yet. Alrighty, let's go across to Pinder and see what's happening there.
We are just taking in the last peachy rays of light over the Ubombo Mountains out to the west of us. And we've come to a little waterhole. Sure, you can see the reflection of the sky there, glistening off the water. And to our left, there's a big, thick forest with big trees. Just the perfect spot for the thick-tailed bush babies that we are looking for. So we're just sitting here now. With it getting darker and darker, these bush babies are going to be waking up soon, and they're going to start calling. And we're hoping that we're going to get to hear that very distinct screaming, crying sound, and that will then maybe be able to use our spotlight with a red filter to get a better view of it. Now, we've parked under these big fever trees, and remember I said earlier that these bush babies would be looking for the sap of thorn trees to feed on, and these fever trees offer the perfect sap, delicious and large quantities of it. And these bush babies. And because it's an animal that we do get to see quite often while here at and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve in the thicker areas, it's an animal that we often do try and look for on our way back to the lodges at night for dinner. And it makes this circumstance now, it just reminds me of a story. A couple of years ago, there was a colleague of mine who going on those big ears and big eyes and fluffy tails. Okay, apparently our signal is not so good, so we're going to send you across to Tswalu Kalahari.
So it's still very, very quiet out here at the moment. We've still got a good bit of light left, but we're not seeing anything obvious even approaching, and we've got a fairly good vantage point from where we are here, but you never know. We'll play it out. It is what it is. That's the fun part. And there's been quite a bit of jackal activity in there in terms of calling and vocalizations, and that we're hearing it quite far north of us, some south of us as well. So there's stuff going on. Talking about animals coming in and feeding on a carcass, things like honey badgers will also feed on a carcass like this. So what we typically see or what we in our perception is that a thing is a carnivore or a predator rather. You know, they'll chase things down and catch them. They'll often feed on carcasses as well. So in a carcass like this, yeah, it's a big carcass. Okay, it's quite a thin eland bull. You know, an adult eland bull up here is 700 to 800 kilograms. So that's a big pack of meat lying there. But this one, older one, I'm guessing probably 400, 450. But there's still a lot of protein on that, and there should be some good activity over the coming days. But we'll pop out here intermittently as well and just see. But none of your business has just asked, why are there no vultures on this carcass? So Jondo is forming his favorite bird again. It could just be, well, what I'm going to go on here is that this animal probably died during the late hours or late hours, or maybe even early hours of this morning. Animals came in, they fed on it a bit. It's partly concealed by those bushes, and in these areas we've got very few birds of prey like bataliers and tawny eagles. Now those two species are sometimes key for finding carcasses that are obscured by bushes and trees, because they're flying a lot lower. They scavenge as well as being predatory, but they'll fly a lot lower than vultures do, and because they're flying lower, they can actually spot things that are obscured by bushes, and when they come down, vultures watching them often follow them in. So we've got very, very few of them here, so it may literally just be that birds haven't picked up on it. There's no other reason now. This is a really good vulture area. It's very open, lots of trees for them to perch on in the near vicinity. They've got one of the challenges for vultures in super dense woodland is once they've gorged on a carcass and their crops are full, their stomachs and their crops are full, if some danger threatens, they battle to take off, so they've got to actually regurgitate that stuff and then have a run-up. And even if they haven't been threatened and they haven't regurgitated, they still need that bit of a run-up to actually get momentum before being able to take off. Whereas in this area that we're sitting at here, it's nice and open. You know, those kind of things shouldn't be a problem for a vulture. We do tend to find the closer you go towards the mountains, and this is, I think, is just an interesting feature of the weather pattern over there, is that there's a lot of turbulence, especially in the summer months, right over the mountains. And we very, very, very seldom see vulture activity close up against the mountain. I think that's just because of that turbulence. You know, things flying there, just like bumping. Whereas the further away you go, you just get these lovely steady thermals that they can use for gaining height and searching for food items. And you also, this time of the day now, you know, even if a vulture picked this up, they wouldn't be at the carcass now, because they'd probably be sitting a little bit further away. Our mics are probably not going to pick it up now, but there are jackals vocalizing to the north of here. Now, Glenn has said the bush buffet is open. That's exactly what that is. And you must just think of the activity that's going on there. You know, we sitting here from here and saying, there's nothing on that carcass. Well, nothing that we can see. But you must think of the bacterial activity going on there. The microbes must be having an absolute party with no social distancing inside that carcass as we're sitting here. They must be having a whale of a time. I would imagine there's lots of fly eggs, although in winter there's a lot fewer flies. But if you're getting these warmer days, you might still get some, but I'd imagine there'd be a bit of fly activity there. What do they call these? Carrion beetles. You'll get a lot of carrion beetle activity there now. Maybe, although unlikely, you know, we've gone quite far into winter, a bit of dung beetle activity on the rumen contents, you know, the stomach contents. So, I mean, we're sitting and saying, there's no hyena feeding or no jackals feeding. But, oh boy, that carcass must be seething with life. And there's the irony of it. You know, something out here has to die to regenerate life and regenerate systems and put nutrients back into the cycle.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Look at beautiful is that new moon coming out there. If we go slightly further down, for what the Lowveld is very famous for, is the beautiful winter sunsets. If you look, you can see how beautiful are those colors on the sky. Just few minutes to 15 minutes after the sun has gone down, you start experiencing these beautiful colors just behind the Bombo Mountain. Sorry, the Drakensberg Mountain, not the Bombo. It's really a beautiful sunset indeed, and you can see quite a nice wide space. We're quite in a nice elevated spot, the southwestern part of Ghana itself. And from this particular section, you just look up to space and see these beautiful sunsets day after day, in particular in winter time, which is always something you miss when it's nice and hot in summer, because the colors in summer, sometimes they do look beautiful, but not often as beautiful as these winter sunsets are. Sandy, it's really, really stunning. I wish you could see more of this while we carry on watch these live safaris, days to go and days to come. Very quiet and peaceful out here. You don't really hearing a lot of things, although we're kind of hoping that we could hear these lines that we've been trying to find for most of the day, but they're very quiet wherever they are. but it's also just very also nice to just sit and enjoy the peace and quietness of the bush. The different colors on the sky, it's a little bit of pollution every now and again. Some places might be a little bit of dust up in the sky, some places might be a little bit of smoke. But altogether, that is also the sun reflecting back after it is set back towards the sky. You can see it's slowly but surely getting dark and the colors are starting to fade. It's the darkness starting to fall in, so as it gets dark, I think we've seen the best of what we could see with the sunset. We are gonna carry on with our search and drive around and see if we can find anything more before we wrap up.
Still nothing yet, but we live in hope. It's not over till it's over, huh? And I'm very, very happy that we keep returning here over the next couple of days. Not necessarily sitting as long, although I'm super happy to do that as well. But just to see how that carcass also sort of breaks down in that. That's also very, very interesting to see. So maybe, well, let's see how our time goes and what our planning is over the next couple of days and how it works out. I bet you those trees there are loving it. You know, we talk about big, animals coming in and eating it. But those trees are probably like having a party as we're sitting here. It's like, wow, look at the nutrients we're going to be getting here. You just think as that thing breaks down, all those nutrients, it's like filtering into the soil, run around their roots. Roxy, would lions feed on a carcass like this? Absolutely. Lions are big scavengers. As are leopards. Leopards also they'll probably take something that's even worse, like in terms of rotten meat. This is still nice and fresh. Well, when I say fresh, maybe not according to us, but according to animals out here, it doesn't even have a very strong smell to it yet. So it is quite fresh. But even if this was very rotten, lions will feed on it. Spotted hyenas, brown hyenas, jackal, leopard, honey badgers. You even get, Janda and I were actually chatting even about your smaller animals, things like slender mongoose. So you'll get mongoose that will actually come ferreting around a carcass like that during daylight hours. Genets wouldn't be averse to feeding. And it's not necessarily that they're feeding on the rotten meat there or the meat there, but they'll be feeding on other things that have been attracted to a carcass like that, whether it's beetle larvae, and grubs, things like that. So this is a critically important, like, thing. You have this carcass here, and as it starts breaking down, it just gives a whole range of species so many opportunities to start taking advantage of it. And again, birds. I mean, you get all sorts of birds that'll approach a carcass like this and feed on, and I'm not talking about just things like vultures, you know, but smaller birds. Earlier we were watching there was a common fiscal, you know, the shrike, the butcher bird that sticks all these armoured ground crickets around on the thorns. He'll even hang around a carcass like that and going for flies and things that are hanging around there as well. So, no, on a carcass like that, there's actually a lot going on, and some fun things to do with DSLR photography or even camera trap is you do time lapses. So you put a Gus is quite shocked that leopards scavenge. Oh, so we have this like very noble image of these big predators. You know, we got like, oh no, they're fastidious about their cleanliness, and they're these like apex predators, and they're so good at catching, and it's the epitome of stealth and grace. Hey, a leopard walks up to a rotten carcass, he is going to fill his belly as fast as he can. Eh? No, leopards are not averse to taking, you know, rotten meat, and I'm talking about like properly rotten meat. You do tend to find that occurs in areas more frequently where there's a very, very low prey density. Obviously, then they'll be not passing up any opportunity like this. But yeah, absolutely. Carcasses are good food parcels for a whole range of predators, so, including leopard and lion. But the other side of it, just because you have a carcass, it doesn't mean that you're going to get all these predators coming in, because like brown hyena, they have been known to hunt. They're not nearly as adapted as things like spotted hyenas that will hunt in big packs sometimes. And we've even recorded single spotted hyena catching adult kudu, chasing them down, running them down, catching them. So spotted hyena are super, super, super good predators. Brown hyena been recorded killing things. Lambs, youngsters of animals, hares, things like that, but they're not nearly as adept as spotties. But even your major predators, they might have a kill somewhere, and then they just ignore this carcass completely. So because you got a kill, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get those animals coming in.
We are looking at the moon, believe it or not, and it's in its waxen crescent phase, 12.9% according to my moon app. Waxen means it's getting fuller, so it's gone from new moon to full moon, and the crescent refers to the shape. Now we can hear lions. We've been racing around the past 20 minutes because it sounds like they're coming from the northwest corner of Djuma. That's why we've actually stopped, turned the engine off, and we're also just trying to listen a little bit. Wouldn't it be great if the Nkuhumas crossed in tonight? But we've only heard one contact call, and we've not heard them again, I'm afraid. So we thought we would just show you this astronomical body that is the moon, that of course orbits the Earth. And according to Wallace and Gromit, is a big ginormous ball of cheese. You never know, could be true. Okay, we're running out of time. I think we're going to try one last road. The issue is, in winter, when the air is this cold, vocalizations sound like they're closer than they actually are. Megan, you're saying beautiful. Yes, I always like to show everyone the moon. I'm a bit of a lunar child. I love a good moon viewing. So yes, it can sound like they're very, very close, and actually it's coming from further away. So I'm going to do one last check in this corner of Djuma, and hopefully we can pick up on some signs of the lions. And even if we don't make it tonight, maybe it will mean promising news for tomorrow. Okay. Here we go. Let me get my spotlight out so you can see any predator eyes. Oh, stuck in bed. You are hoping for a last-minute lion. I would love last-minute lions. I would love to see the whole pride, since I spent all morning tracking. Well, I tracked the avocas at least. But they may be moving east. They may be headed in this direction. It just sounded like the sound was coming from this part of Djuma. But let's see if we can find anything. And then, of course, tomorrow we'll come back out and we'll check. And hopefully they'll grace us with their presence. The Nkuhumas like to tease us these days. But in past years, they tend to spend more time on Djuma during the winter than they do summer. So I wonder if now, because we are in the heart of winter, if we'll start to see more of them. And of course, leopards and lions live sympatrically, and what that means is they share the same geographical location, similar prey species. And this is said to be, well, at least for Africa, across 91% of all the regions that you find lions and leopards together. So when we have the Nkuhumas, we tend to see leopards a lot less. Okay, I'm going to focus now and hopefully pick up on some signs of those lions.
Yep, and there we were, deep in Africa. And still nothing at the Carcass. But we're not giving up. What Jandra is doing, they're just panning slowly, is good. We've been keeping a beady eye out. But that's all part of it, eh? Even for us, we're super privileged that we actually stay on these reserves. And yet it's not like we, seeing leopards dripping out of trees every day. So, when we do see these kind of things, or we have a little sengi that we can see, or an elephant swimming in a dam, or whatever it is, it's a huge, huge, huge privilege for us. Oh, Joy from Hong Kong. When are you coming to visit us? She's just asked the best question ever. It's like, are there any butterfly-eating or carcass-eating butterflies? Yeah. And why I love that question is I absolutely adore butterflies. It's like one of my... it's not my big thing. I mean, I'm not like particularly good at any field. But it's very, very cool that you asked it, because you get a lot of butterflies that will feed on carcasses, but not actually like on the meat in it. They'll be going for the minerals and the moisture on carcasses. And that's one of my favorite things to do in the summer months. The winter months aren't good for it because there's very few butterflies around. But in the summer months, yes, then you get lots of butterflies, and then you see them on carcasses, and it's so exciting. You can get hundreds on a carcass sometimes. So good question there. Yeah, we're just going to, Jandra and I, we're going to spend a little bit more time here, even once I've said goodnight to everyone, and we're just going to hold thumbs. Maybe we'll see something rocking up, I'm hoping. But as always, it has been nothing but an absolute pleasure having you able to join us. And, it's for me personally, it's always such a privilege being able to answer questions, or at least try answer questions, and I go home and I can find out more about it. And I think I'm talking on behalf of all of our colleagues at the other places as well, and the team behind the scenes, the directors, the camera crew, everyone. It's special that we're able to share this with people. And have a good rest, stay safe, and we will see you again tomorrow morning.